This is Impact Wrestling.
Hello, Sudden Impact fans. Wow, what a rebellion that was. Well, that's in the books, and the wrestling world will never be the same again. Well, just going through the results of each match. So we had one match in the pre-show, and that was between the team of Rosemary and Havoc, who defeated the team of Kimberly and Susan. I didn't see this match because it was in the pre-show, but I'm guessing it would have been a fairly good contest. All four wrestlers are quite good wrestlers, and the winners were Rosemary and Havoc. They're just solid wrestlers. I do not see how they could put on a bad match. And against Kimberly and Susan, or Sue Young, or Susie, whatever she chooses to go by, they're all professional, high quality athletes. So I'm willing to say that was a good match, although I didn't see it. Please let me know if you think that match was a good match, if anyone saw it. All right, so the first contest of the main card was the X Division match, was the X Division Championship match. It contested in a three-way match between Josh Alexander, Ace Austin, and TJP. A lot of three-way action in this one, which is really good to see, because normally in three-way matches you get one person doing their own thing on the outside, while the two other guys go at it in the ring. But this match had a lot of everyone involved in it, and it was just insane. It was absolutely a magnificent match to open the pay-per-view. Kudos to Josh Alexander, who won his first Impact X Division Championship, of his first singles championship in Impact Wrestling. And some of the moves that were on display, it was like, I think Josh Alexander had TJP in an ankle lock had Ace Austin in an ankle lock, while TJP had Josh Alexander in a knee bar, and then Josh Alexander managed to get out of the knee bar but still maintain his ankle lock on Ace Austin. And then TJP came back into the ring and put a octopus stretch on Josh Alexander. It was just amazing action, all out in that match. And Josh Alexander, as I said, walked away with his first singles championship in Impact Wrestling. Well done to him. I think Impact still have the ruling that of option C, that if you're the current holder of the X Division Championship, you can cash that in, or essentially vacate the title and earn yourself an opportunity at the World Championship. Not sure why Ace Austin didn't do that. Maybe this is his build up into the main event scene, and is working his way out through the card through this way. But I really do like the fact that the X Division Championship is not treated as a throwaway championship recently, because it was the option C was a relic of the Hogan Bischoff era, which really didn't do the X Division any favors. And yeah, I'm glad that they didn't focus on that rule, and haven't been using that rule as of late. So now that Ace Austin has lost the championship, it remains to be seen what happens now. Will he continue to move up the card, or will he just stay in the X Division, or maybe will he form a tag team with Madman Fulton, who didn't have that much who didn't come into effect that much, but was always an imposing figure on the outside for Josh Alexander and TJP to watch. All right, the next match was Violent by Design with the team of Dina, Joe Dory, and Rhino. It was supposed to be Eric Young in this match as well as the leader of Violent by Design, but he claimed to have an injury sustained at the hand at last week's Impact episode. So he brought him. He was talking about bringing in someone that would embody the Violent by Design ethos, and boy howdy, did this person sure bring it. If you hadn't watched the pay-per-view, it was Big Cass, or as he goes by on the independent scene, Kaz XL, or as he's now known in Impact Wrestling, W. Morrissey, who was brought in by Eric Young specifically for this match. And he just looked like $1 million. And he just destroyed the team of Chris Sabin, Eddie Edwards, James Storm, and Willie Mack. He was on fire, and like the whole Violent by Design team were just boosted by Morrissey's appearance, and the Sabin's team and James Storm's team was like going, "Oh, okay, we might be in a bit of trouble here." So, and they sure were. No one could get any offense on Morrissey, and Joe Doring, as always, is a juggernaut. Dina with the crazy wrestling style and crazy tenacity, and Rhino with that sheer aggressiveness. I feel that Violent by Design are going to have a big rest of 2021. And they were the winners, with Morrissey hitting the East River Crossing on, I can't remember who he hit it on, but it was just a fantastic way to introduce him and just instantly give him credibility as booking him as that monster, which we all wanted him to be booked as in WWE. All right, so the next match was Brian Myers against Matt Cardona. This match really didn't get up and running. I think Matt Cardona was still a bit hesitant to take on Brian Myers, someone he's known for the past 20 years. They grew up together, got into the wrestling business together, and he was still a bit not, his heart wasn't in that match, but he still put on quite a bit of offense, but in the end it was a possible injury to Matt Cardona when he was going for the radio silence off the middle rope. Brian Myers avoided it, and Matt Cardona landed awkwardly and seemed to tweak his knee, and he went down, and the ref threw up the emergency symbol and got the other refs to come down. You saw Matt Cardona just saying something to Brian Myers, like an apology or something like that, and Brian Myers reached out and to shake his hand and pull him up, and you thought they were going to embrace finally, but Brian Myers, doing what his character is all about, just like clotheslined him, and then just went for that massive lariat in the end to get the win and continue his momentum. I think that was the only bad bit about this event, like this pay-per-view, because it was a wall-to-wall excitement machine, this pay-per-view. And so the next match was for the Knockouts Tag Team Championship. Champions Fire and Flavor, Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz were taking on Jordan Grace and the debuting Rachel Ellering, who just appeared in the episode of last week's episode of Impact. And Tasha and Kiera came out first, as is their right as champions. They can choose whether to come out first or second, and they chose to come out first, and just to intimidate Grace and Ellering. But Grace and Ellering didn't have any of it. They came out and brought Jazz with them. Jazz, you might remember, who just was forced to retire most recently, end her career, essentially. So she was back accompanying them down to ringside. And yeah, it was just a dominant power display. Ellering and Grace were hitting power moves on Hogan and Steelz, and unfortunately Hogan and Steelz couldn't match it, or couldn't find a way to get out of the match with their championships intact, so they lost. And well, good on Impact Wrestling for giving the debuting Rachel Ellering a chance at getting the tag team championship. That's a good way to introduce her into the Impact roster. I'm waiting to see, and I'm very excited to see what the two of them put on in terms of matches going forward. The next match was Trey Miguel versus Sami Callihan in the last man standing match. Now, this was brutal. It went all over the ring, outside the ring. It was like tables were broken, chairs were broken. It was just an intense match to watch, but it had Trey really stepped up and showed he has the heart and the passion to be in Impact Wrestling, to get the job done, and he managed to defeat Sami Callihan in the most brutal way. It was, if you haven't seen this match, go and watch it. Order the pay-per-view, you will not be disappointed. It was a wall-to-wall awesome event, but this match was a truly awesome event. It was just some of the things that Trey Miguel and Sami Callihan did to each other. You think, was that supposed to happen? But it was insane what they did to each other and were willing to do to each other to prove a point. Next match was FinJuice, the team of David Finlay and Juice Robinson, the New Japan Pro Wrestling guys, who are the Impact World Tag Team Champions, who were facing the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, who were the previous champions, who used their rematch clause. And another hard-hitting match that really cemented FinJuice as the tag team champions, and furthered the rebirth of the New Japan Impact working relationship, and it saw, and of course that means that FinJuice won. They had to, I guess. I'm not sure at how long they'll continue to have the tag team championships for. I think the Good Brothers should move on to chasing other tag team championships, either in New Japan or AEW, because of the working relationships. So I think that'll play out in the next couple of months in either AEW or New Japan, or even, who knows, Slammiversary is coming up in July. So we'll just wait and see what happens with them. Now, this match, the next match between Deonna Purrazzo and Tenille Dashwood, I was actually very impressed by both of them, especially Tenille Dashwood, who showed that she is a legitimate contender for the Knockouts Championship and should be considered that going forward now. She was able to hold her own, even get some surprising near falls on Deonna Purrazzo, and she locked in a version of the Muta lock, and I thought, oh, yeah, that's going to be tough for Purrazzo to get out of, but she managed to get a hold of the ropes, and then as soon as that, and Tenille Dashwood kept the offense going with several stiff shots to the head, stiff kicks to the head actually. First with the spotlight and another type of kick, and that looked brutal, and you thought just for a moment that Tenille Dashwood was going to win the Knockouts Championship, but who knows? Unfortunately, Deonna Purrazzo just had the wherewithal to take advantage of the distractions that were going on ringside with Kimberly and Susan and Caleb with a K, and she locked in the Queen's Gambit. She was able to hit the Queen's Gambit pile driver, which is a version of the Gotch pile driver, to get the 1, 2, 3 for the win and remain Knockouts champion. All right, the next match, the one that the wrestling world has been waiting for with bated breath. Kenny Omega, AEW champion, with Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson, and Don Callis in his corner, versus Rich Swann, the Impact Unified World Champion, who came down to the rings with Eddie Edwards and Willie Mack. This match, it forever changed the wrestling landscape going forward, because it was title for title, world championship for world championship, company against company, winner takes all, and it did not disappoint. The only way that it was going to be the only real disappointment was that there was no crowd in sight. They would have, if there was a crowd, they would have been off the chain. Oh, it was wall-to-wall excitement. There was pretty early on in the match, Rich Swann was looking to do a handspring cutter on the outside, but didn't get enough momentum, and he landed on his head, and Kenny Omega just went at his neck and head after that, locking in or attempting to go for the One Wing Angel several times, where Rich Swann was just able to get out of them again and again. But then Kenny Omega started using V-trigger after V-trigger, J Driller, or the Tiger Driver is what it's known as in other wrestling circles. It was just non-stop offense on the head and neck of Rich Swann. But Rich Swann just had that heart and had that belief and determination where he just wasn't going to give Kenny Omega the win. And he thought that had to be getting under Kenny Omega's skin. But Kenny Omega just kept on with those V-triggers and V-triggers after V-trigger after V-trigger after V-trigger. And it was there was nothing else. There was nothing that Rich Swann could do in the end. He'd taken like about 10 to 15 V triggers at that stage, like a Tiger Driver. Oh, it was several Snapdragon suplexes, and he just had no fight in him left, and Kenny Omega was finally able to get all of the one winged angel for the victory and to become the new Impact World Champion. It was a monumental match in the professional wrestling industry. I just wish that there was a crowd there live to see it, to actually make this moment special, like even more special than it was. All the wrestlers from Impact Wrestling were in the back areas. Scott D'Amore was like just in the gorilla position. All the AEW officials, Tony Khan, who's like Jerry Lynn, Tony Schiavone, sorry, were there as well. Aubrey Edwards was refereeing the match as well. It was just something that you had to. I wish they would have allowed a live crowd in to witness it, the whole event actually, because it changed the wrestling landscape going forward. And yeah, so going forward, Impact Wrestling have got 2 more Impact Plus specials. The first one is Under Siege. That happens in May, and in June they have Against All Odds, which is another Impact Plus special, and in July they return to pay-per-view with their 19th anniversary, I think, edition of Slammiversary, and they did a hype video for it, or a teaser video for it, and it featured like recently released wrestlers Samoa Joe, Mickie James, Chelsea Green, as well as New Japan wrestlers such as Kazuchika Okada, Tetsuya Naito, as well as the Mexican flag and the Australian flag. So suggesting that they might be also looking into bring the Aussie duo that were recently released from WWE, the Iconics, and they are holding the Slammiversary pay-per-view in July, because that's when the 90-day non-compete clause ends for those wrestlers that were released from WWE. So remains to see who actually turns up for Impact Wrestling, whether any of those names that were mentioned turn up, but the build to Slammiversary looks to be amazing, and it should be another excellent pay-per-view that Don Callis and Scott D'Amore put on, just as this one was. Hopefully they allow crowds to actually attend the live, so who knows. Well, that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share and subscribe to the channel Sudden Impact. Follow me on social media such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and please leave a comment down below and ring the bell for notifications.